Yo, what is up guys, your boy IzuKage here with a new what if, and this what if is something I think you guys would like. This is what if Deku was the Crimson Chin, like from, Fairy Odd Parents. So yeah, let's get right into the what if. So we start the story off with Izuku, and he already knows that he doesn't have a quirk. He's being bullied just like Canon, but not just mainly verbally, like name calling, little stuff like that. So one day when Izuku was like 6 years old, their school decides them to take them on a trip to this kind of laboratory. There they saw different experiments being done, stuff kids would understand, like, miniature volcanoes, stuff like that. But while everyone was following the teacher, Izuku stopped to look at one of the experiments. This one seemed a bit off. This guy was receiving some injections, and as he did, he jumped out of the chair and began fighting the scientists. More came in trying to get him under control, but he broke free and ran towards the window where Izuku was. He tried running away, but this radioactive talk show host, yes, this is literally the backstory of Crimson Chin. He got bit by a radioactive talk show host. Don't question it. So Izuku got bit on the chin by this radioactive talk show host, and due to the pain, he passed out. And finally the security came and got the man under control, and Izuku was taken to the hospital. Later he woke up in like a hospital room, and Inko was there. She would normally be bawling her eyes out at this point, but the doctors assured her that Izuku was just tired and the bite didn't do anything. So when Izuku woke up, Inko hugged him immediately, asking him like if he was fine, and Izuku said yes, he's fine. And with that, they got to go home. When they reached home, in his room, Izuku felt strange. His chin was tingling, but he felt stronger than usual. And he goes to look in a mirror, and he sees his chin, and it's now double, no triple, no quadrupled in size, and it was as long as like from his elbow to his shoulder. So he was like freaking out, like, why is his chin so long? But one thing he didn't realize was his body grew. It was now a bit shorter than All Might's, call it 6'7", but all like with all the muscle. Now, Izuku was freaking out and began backing up from the mirror, and his footsteps were causing the ground to like creak, because this was a 2-story house with a wooden floor. So Inko like went to his room and started knocking, asking if he was fine, and he was like, yeah, I'm fine. So Inko is like, okay, and she goes and leaves, and at this point he like all his clothes couldn't fit him. Like he's 6 and he's now like a grown man. If you think of it, it's kind of like Shazam. So Izuku was he was freaking out, and then this suit began appearing around Izuku, this red suit, and Izuku's first thought obviously was he looks so similar to All Might. Maybe he finally got his quirk, and Izuku was really excited. He opened his window, and he wanted to test like what kind of power he has, and he jumps out his window and he realized he didn't fall. He can fly, and Izuku begins flying around the city. Some people are seeing him, like reporting it, and because there's no hero that looks like this. So Izuku is flying around in his red spandex suit, and he's feeling himself, and he looks down and he sees this like bank robbery, and he flies down to try and like see what he can do. Izuku goes into the bank, and the guys they have projectile quirks, like they can shoot stuff out of their body. This guy can shoot like porcupine quills out of his body, and he's shooting them at Izuku, and they're just doing nothing. They're like bouncing off him, not bouncing off, but they hit him and like fall to the ground. And Izuku is like acting like All Might. He's like, stop, like villain. and he rushes them and punches him, and he underestimated how strong he was. He caved this guy's whole face in, and Izuku was like, oh, like, yeah, that was probably a bit too much. And his accomplice was like, oh snap, and he like put his hands up like, please don't hurt me, and like, here's all the money. So the police came and they asked like this hero like, who is he? And I mean, they would have them registered and stuff. So the police came and like pointed the gun at Izuku and said like stop, because like he's a vigilante, that's not allowed. So they say bring yourself in, and Izuku is like, oh well, yeah, I gotta go. So he flies out, and the police try stopping him, but what are you gonna do against like basically All Might? So he flies home back into his room, and he's lying down thinking like, this is amazing. But as soon as that thought hit his mind, he returned back into his 6-year-old body. And Izuku is looking at his body and he's saying like, well, that was something. And his chin is still long. Like, it's not like ridiculously long. It's only like ridiculously long when he is like in his Crimson Chin form. But yeah. So the next day when Izuku goes to school, all the kids are talking about this new hero that the news calls him the Crimson Chin, because I mean his crimson red suit and his beautiful chin. So yeah, everyone's talking about it. And after school, school goes on as usual. And after school, Bakugo and his goons roll up on Deku. And Bakugo says, come on Deku, it's time for your beating. And Izuku says like, I wouldn't try that, Bakugo, my best friend is the Crimson Chin. And Bakugo is like, he's looking at the goons like, who is this guy, man? And he's like, yeah, sure, okay, as if. And Izuku says, okay, I warned you. And Izuku starts running. And Bakugo is confused, so he starts chasing him with his goons. And when Izuku turns a corner, he turns into Crimson Chin. And when Bakugo reaches the same corner, he bumps into like this massive guy's legs. He looks up and sees that it's the Crimson Chin. And Izuku, well, I'll just call him Izuku, but he's the Crimson Chin. And Izuku in his heroic voice says, kids, do you know what happens to bullies? And Bakugo, who's still in shock, but his ego returns and says, get out of my way, hero, you hero wannabe. And tries sending an explosion at Izuku, but it does nothing. Then Izuku picks Bakugo up and starts flying up into the air. At this point, Bakugo is freaking out, like, let me go, and starts punching Izuku's hands. And Izuku says, let you go? Okay, you should have just asked sooner. And he lets him go. And Bakugo is falling out of the sky. They're really, really far up. And he's screaming at the top of his lungs, flailing his arms around. And as he was about to be turned into a pancake on the pavement, Izuku flew down and caught him and put him down safely. And Bakugo is shaking like he's scared. And with his goons, they run off. So Izuku is having a good laugh to himself and begins flying like back home. So while he's just chilling in the air, minding his own business, he hears something like loud below him, like a loud crash. And he looks down and sees something flying towards him, and it's moving fast. He tries squinting to make out like what it is, and he sees this blonde-haired man with a mainly like blue and yellow suit. And Izuku then realizes that this is All Might, and he tries dodging, but All Might, who like jumped off the ground, grabs Izuku's arms and lands on a building. Then, he turns to Izuku and says, you vigilante, you're coming with me. And Izuku at this point is scared out of his mind. He doesn't want to go up against All Might, or even if he gets like caught and locked up, they'll find out his true identity. So his first instinct, run. But as he goes to run, Izuku grabs his, All Might grabs his legs and slams him back into the ground. Now Izuku is thinking now he can't leave without a fight. So he tries punching All Might, but All Might easily dodges this and grabs Izuku's hand with one hand, and with the other hand punches him right into the gut. And before I go any further, Crimson Chin's strength fluctuates a lot, so I'm just gonna put him a bit weaker than All Might. So back to the fight. So Izuku is getting destroyed because not only is All Might stronger than him, he has years of experience on Izuku. So Izuku is trying to so Izuku tries tackling All Might. He rushes him and tries pushing All Might, but All Might grabs both his arms and their fingers interlock and they start pushing against each other. All Might then lifts Izuku into the air and throws him off the building they were on, and he lands crashing into the ground. So with the little seconds, it's gonna take All Might to get down, Izuku starts thinking of ways to just get out of this situation, by using the only two things he has against All Might, his high IQ and his flight. So All Might jumps down from the building, and while he was falling, Izuku punches the ground, kicking up a bunch of dust, making a sort of smoke screen. So All Might doesn't know where Izuku is, and he's still in the middle of the air falling. So using the smoke screen, Izuku flies up undetected from All Might and uppercuts All Might, knocking him into the building while he was falling. So when All Might comes crashing through the building window, the office workers were all shocked and started panicking. And after a few seconds, he regained his focus and he runs out to the streets to see Crimson Chin just gone. So while All Might was in the building, Izuku used that time to fly away and head home. So he lands on his roof and goes back into his 6-year-old body and uses a ladder to get down from on top of the building to the front door. So he goes into his house, and Inko realizes that Izuku is limping a bit, because he was pretty beat up from the fight. So she asks him what's wrong, but Izuku just shrugs it off, saying he rolled his ankle or something. So he's gonna ice it. So Inko, she was still worried, but calmed down after a while, so she let him off and she went back to watching TV. On the TV, actually, it was playing the fight with Crimson Chin and All Might on the news and showing all the damage done, and there was some footage of what direction he flew in. So they made an announcement to all the people who lived in that area to report any suspicious activity. And Inko lived in this direction, and she wasn't suspicious because who would think their 6-year-old son is actually a grown man fighting All Might? So she wasn't suspicious, but she did think something was up because Izuku isn't prone to injury. But yeah, she wouldn't really be suspicious. So to Izuku, he was lying down in his bed, still in pain from the fight, and began searching for places to train to hopefully just get stronger. So he's searching through his phone and he comes across Dagobah Beach, and it was filled with litter and a lot of heavy machinery, and this is the perfect place. So after getting the location, Izuku puts his phone down and goes to sleep. And that's where I'm going to be leaving this one off, guys. If you liked it, if you like my content in general, why not subscribe? Yeah. So I'll see you guys in the next What If.